Napoleon Bonaparte wasn't just a general. He was a force of nature. At his peak, he controlled most of Europe, defeated the strongest armies of his time, and reshaped the map of the continent. Kings feared him, nations paid him tribute, and millions marched under his command. Napoleon's philosophy was simple: power belonged to the side with the biggest army. He famously said, "God is on the side of the big battalions." He was a master of warfare, a tactician whose strategies are still studied in military academies today. His grande armée seemed invincible, conquering nation after nation, from the deserts of Egypt to the frozen plains of Russia. But there was one fundamental truth that Napoleon, for all his military genius, underestimated. Wars are not won by courage and cannons alone. They are won by money. Every single aspect of a military campaign, every march, every musket, every soldier's ration requires a constant flow of cash. Without a steady supply of funds, even the most disciplined and powerful army will eventually grind to a halt. While Napoleon was laser-focused on conquering territory and winning battles, another, quieter power was growing in the background. A power that didn't rely on gunpowder or cavalry charges. It was the power of finance. The Rothschild family didn't command armies or fight wars. They financed them. They understood that the real power wasn't just in holding land, but in controlling the flow of capital that made everything else possible. Originating as bankers in Frankfurt, the Rothschilds thought far beyond the traditional model. Meyer Amschel Rothschild, the family patriarch, had a revolutionary idea. Instead of keeping all their wealth and operations in one place, he decided to build a financial network that spanned across Europe. He sent his 5 sons to the most important financial centers of the era: London, Paris, Vienna, Naples, and back home in Frankfurt. This wasn't just about opening new branches. It was about creating a private, multinational financial empire. This network allowed them to move money across borders with astonishing speed and efficiency, often faster and more securely than governments themselves. More importantly, it allowed them to move something even more valuable: information. In the early 19th century, information was a slow, precious commodity. News of a major battle or a political development could take days, sometimes even weeks, to travel from one capital to another. Markets would remain in a state of suspended animation, waiting for official reports. The Rothschilds built a system to shatter this delay. They used a sophisticated network of private couriers on fast horses, dedicated ships that sailed in rough weather, carrier pigeons, and even coded messages hidden in plain sight. They knew the outcomes of major events long before kings and prime ministers did. While governments and rival bankers waited for the official dispatches, the Rothschilds were already acting, making their moves on the financial markets. This incredible informational advantage reached its absolute peak during Napoleon's final, decisive battle, Waterloo. The future of Europe hung in the balance. If Napoleon won, his empire would be restored, and the old order would be shattered once again. If he lost, the monarchies of Europe would be secure. The financial markets in London were paralyzed with uncertainty. Rumors flew wildly. Some said Napoleon was winning, others claimed he was in retreat. No one knew the truth. According to the now legendary account, it was Nathan Rothschild in London who received the first confirmed news of Napoleon's defeat. One of his agents had witnessed the battle's end and raced across the English Channel to deliver the message. What happened next has become one of the most famous and debated stories in financial history. As fear and uncertainty gripped the London Stock Exchange, Nathan Rothschild and his agents began to conspicuously sell British government bonds. Other investors, seeing the famous banker selling, assumed it meant Napoleon had won. A wave of panic selling ensued. The market crashed as everyone desperately tried to offload their assets. In the middle of this chaos, Rothschild's agents were secretly buying up those same bonds and other assets at rock-bottom prices. They bought everything they could get their hands on. Then, when the official news of Wellington's victory at Waterloo finally arrived, the market exploded upwards. Prices surged. In a single day, the Rothschilds reportedly made a fortune of staggering proportions. Whether every detail of this Waterloo story is literal fact or embellished legend, the outcome is undeniable. The Rothschild family emerged from the Napoleonic Wars, not just wealthy, but more powerful than many of the nations they had financed. They had become a force that could influence governments and shape the course of history without firing a single shot. Napoleon, in his final years of exile, reflected on his downfall. He eventually came to realize that he wasn't just fighting the armies of Britain, Prussia, and Russia. He was fighting an entire financial system that he couldn't control. He had tried to cripple Britain with his continental system, a massive trade embargo designed to bankrupt his rival. He restricted banks and tried to control the flow of money. But he learned a hard lesson. Money does not obey borders the way soldiers do. Capital is fluid. It flows to where it sees opportunity and security. Napoleon ruled through military force, through the tangible power of conquest and command. The Rothschilds ruled through something less tangible, but far more enduring: liquidity and trust. And as history has shown time and time again, liquidity often lasts longer than empires. The legacy of Napoleon is etched in the pages of history books, a story of ambition, glory, and ultimate defeat. The legacy of the Rothschilds is written into the very foundations of modern global finance. This story from 2 centuries ago is more relevant today than ever. The fundamental rules of power haven't really changed. Modern markets are still driven by the same forces: speed, information, and strategic positioning. The technology has evolved from carrier pigeons to fiber optic cables, but the principle remains the same. Those who get the right information first and have the courage and capital to act on it decisively are the ones who shape the outcomes. Governments, massive institutions, and the financial elite understand this perfectly. It's the invisible game being played behind the headlines and market charts. The average person, however, is often unaware of these deeper currents. We see the rise and fall of empires, the political dramas, the military conflicts. But beneath it all is the flow of money, the true lifeblood of power. Empires rise and they fall. Heroes are celebrated and then forgotten. But the power of money endures, rewarding those who truly understand how the system works. It's a legacy that continues to shape our world every single day. This is the legacy of money. Thanks for watching, and if you found this story insightful, be sure to subscribe for more.